Okay, we're gonna play around with this quarter panel today. Crispy. Half inch, quarter inch of putty in here. Um, so that's cool. I have to make sure that all the zinc's off here because the stuff. God, I don't know if there was a dent and they fixed it, and then it got dented again. So unsure. But we're gonna take this all off from about here over. Take this all down to bare metal, and then I've got a stud welder and put a bunch of studs in, and we're gonna see if we can't pop this out a bit. This might be like one of the worst panels I've ever seen in the work. So it looks like there was damage here before, and then there's new damage. So there's a just ton of filler. This whole thing was covered in filler. All right, so just kind of getting in here, just getting into the low spots. I'm pulling it out. This is obviously something that's not going to be perfect. I'm just getting the metal mostly out to shape, getting pretty close, and then I'm going to have to Bondo up and over it, but that's pretty normal for this type of repair. This just means I have to use less Bondo. So doing a pretty good job. This is my first time, so I didn't really know how to use it. The slide hammer, and I took some time to watch a bunch of YouTube videos, and the process is going much better. So you get in the low spot, or one of the many that are on this panel, and you start at the outsides and then work your way in, and then you got to be pretty aggressive with the pull, and you can kind of tell if it's starting to tear the metal out. But my problem was I was holding the arc too long, so literally like a second. If these pull off and break off, that's fine, it doesn't matter. You don't want to hold it so long that it burns through. It can also burn the rubber coating that's on the inside of the car, which I experienced. Ask me how I know. And but yeah, you go outside to in. You just give it a good pull, and then you got to use a mallet or something to just be hitting down the high points. So there's parts that have buckled out because of the dent that push the metal out, like here. And you just kind of tap that down, and then pull out, tap down, pull out, tap down. So comes with a pretty good slide hammer. This one was made in America, so it says on the box. The company is Pin Systems, Motor Guard. I don't know. But yeah, it's got the American flag on it, so it must be good. All right, I did notice here there's actually a break in the metal, probably from one of the damages. You can see how much Bondo was on this now. I don't want to deal with that today, but this is kind of a low point. You can see here I need to pull this out here and pull this out here, but dang, I can't believe I was able to really get this straightened out as much as I did, because I've never used one of these before. You go through a lot of them, so in order to not create the holes like I did here, that I'm gonna have to fix each and every one of those. Use a pair of dikes, and you just get on the side, you just clip down on the head of it that's welded to the car, and just give it a little twist, and it pops right out, and it just kind of like looks like that. There's really nothing, I mean, you can barely even feel it. So quick sand and that'll be flush, but I have quite a few bumps that I'm gonna have to fix because I didn't know what I was doing, but I do now. So pretty cool. Glad I made the investment on that. It wasn't that bad. Yeah, it might have been $200. Will I use it again? I hope not. But I could definitely see the advantageous parts of having one for like little pin dents that you could just sand down, spot weld onto it when you get to bare metal, and then just pop that out, and then glazing putty over the top, sand, touch-up paint. So that's pretty cool. This line is going to be hard to recreate. This isn't going to look like the other side for sure, but I'm just going to make it look okay. So, but I've got most of the curve down. This is a real hard curve because this thing folds under and just becomes part of the wheel well. So I did hit up, I think, Elliot at 944 Barn, and I was like, hey dude, do you just have quarter panels? If I lived there, I would just come by and I would just cut probably to this line here down and just weld it in, and then you're just doing body touch up around along this hard line here, which is way easier in my opinion for a guy that doesn't do body work, to weld that in and make that look like it's somewhat normal, because there's a real hard line here. Unfortunately, he does have these that he sells, but he sells them mostly local, and I'm sure it's just a pain in the ass. I don't know how he cuts his, but I would just take the outer skin because that would be all I would weld in. But I'm sure it's a pain in the ass to ship these, and I live in Minnesota and he's down in like some part of Georgia. So anyway, they don't have a lot of these in the junkyards up here, which is kind of cool, but also kind of a bummer. I might have to break out the real welder and just tack a line in here because that is torn. So if it's going to rust, it'll be here or one of the 1,000 holes that I put in. I might just get my welder out and fill these holes real quick and then just use flap disc and sand these smooth. But pretty happy that this is pulled out this far. I know it probably still looks bad, but in comparison to what this thing was, this thing looked like a nightmare. It just looked mangled, and I don't know what a shop would charge to do something like this. Of course, they would do it the right way the first time, hopefully, but I'm sure it'd be well over $1,000 because it's got really weird curves. I was just going to weld a piece of metal in here and just trim out the wheel well, but you can't because of this thing. So, and this has, I mean, if you have one of these cars, you already understand, but it curves out and then folds and twists. So it's kind of a unique, for a guy that doesn't do this stuff for a living, it would be hard for me to make a piece of metal fit in there very well and not look insanely crazy. But it's not going to look perfect. I'm going to make it smooth. There's a high point here that I'm going to have to hammer down. Yep. Cool. There's a low point here that I didn't sand out. Probably get the sander in there. I will get the sander in there and put a couple plugs in, pull that out. So that'll make it look less filler. The less filler, the better. That's the goal here. So less body. There's always going to be body filler when you're doing this type of body work. It never comes out like perfectly flat. You always have to use some filler. But the goal is to use less. And there was gallons on here. So eventually what happens if you don't do this, it cracks. And it cracks in the paint. So there's quite a bit of body filler up there. There's no holes. I can't even feel the dent on the inside. But I'm not going to dick with it because this is going to be a daily driver. Not really a daily driver. I drive my truck. But a fun car to just drive around. I don't want to be stressing about it. I don't want to worry about it. It's never going to be concourse. So I don't really care. This is just something that I'm learning how to do a lot of stuff on. And I intend to keep the car. So who knows, down the road, we might be, if I ever get down to Georgia again for something other than work, and I'm able to get, a quarter panel, then maybe that's something I'll tackle at another time. Or if I've just got some residual cash sitting around, maybe I'll take it into a legit body shop. But I figure I've done so much stuff on this by myself, I might as well just keep going. So we're getting better at welding, and we're getting better. We're learning how to do some of this bodywork stuff. So I'm not going to pretend that I'll ever be as good as the shop guys because they go to school for this. But I'm pretty happy. I'm happy with how this turned out. So it'll probably be a while before this is all skim coated and flush. But I'll do an update when I get to that point. Later.